Hello everyone, welcome to Cambridge from the Inside. We're here with a new guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Neve and I'm in my first year doing human, social and political sciences at Trinity Hall.
Nice. Great to have you, Neve. And today we're going to be talking about first term experiences because it's your first term, right?
It is. It's my first term was just finished, so I've just had my last deadline and my last supervisions.
Nice. And how was your first term? How have you found uni? Big question, I know.
Not quite sure where to start with that. I think it's been amazing. Like, it honestly has been the best 2 months of my life so far. And I know that sounds quite a lot, but it is true.
Yeah.
So, like, I just love the people here, and I really love my degree, which is always good. But yeah, the food here is fantastic.
Nice.
I think meal times have become one of the most important parts of my day because that separates out the work from the like social life, and you get to see your friends again. So at the start of term, we had an induction week, which was really useful, and it allowed us to kind of like settle in and get to know each other without the pressure of like the academic workload.
Nice.
So we had lots of information sessions and workshops and that kind of thing. And then lots of like social events were organised as well in the first week. So that was amazing. And I think that really set us up. And as a college now, I think we're really close as a year group. And like I know most people in my year because it's quite a small college, and that's been like really good for settling in and having like a support system, like
and have you
just to help you out with that. Yeah.
And how have you found Trinity Hall like as a college?
It's so beautiful. I mean, I knew this when I applied because I visited last year, not on an open day. I just came up one day and I didn't mean to apply here and I accidentally stumbled across it. I was like, It's got everything. It's got the location. It's got the river. The people here were lovely. The porters are lovely. And yeah, the architecture is just beautiful, and just wake up and walk out and it's like, you kind of have to pinch yourself because it's crazy being here and just having that on your doorstep.
And the lawn by the river, I think, is probably the nicest part.
Yeah.
And the library looking over the river as well.
Yeah, the Jerwood's a gorgeous library and I'm in there a lot. So yeah, I'm really thankful to have this as surroundings. Like I can't even begin to process how amazing it is here.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe this interview is a bit premature because it's like you've still got so many terms left, but then it's also really interesting just to hear what your first impressions have been like. How has like your first term been like compared to like what you expected Cambridge to be like?
So in a way it's been a little bit easier for me, I think, because I was on a lot of outreach schemes before I got to Cambridge. So for example, at the end of year 11 I came here on a like low participation neighbourhood summer school and stayed in Sydney, Sussex, and I was on the Apply Cambridge scheme and I had a mentor and that kind of thing. So just applying for all those things really helped me understand what Cambridge was like and make it a bit less scary and just destigmatize it, because it is quite a scary prospect, but it doesn't have to be. But in a way also you don't know what you're going to expect, right? I think one of the biggest things for me was I didn't know what my room was going to look like. I didn't know, like, you can't fathom what your day's going to look like at all when you get here. You just have to hope it pans out and you make friends and everything goes well, and luckily it has. So I don't know if there's been anything super unexpected.
So like the program that you went beforehand kind of like help you familiarize.
I think everything I've done and all the research I've done and watching like, videos and that kind of thing has been really helpful. So
that's a good vote of confidence for anyone who's thinking of doing those summer schools, that they do, like, it sounds like they really do give like an insight.
Honestly, like I just applied to anything and everything in like year 11 and 12, and mainly in that, like that really changed things. I think it's just about having the confidence to apply in the first place. And I didn't at points, but yeah, I'm really glad I did in the end. And it is ultimately just a university, but it's an amazing experience, and it doesn't have to be something that's like terrifying or inaccessible.
Yeah, that's pretty similar with me actually, because it was after I went to a summer school at Oxford, and I also went to one in Cambridge. That afterwards I was like, oh, I just want this to be my life for 3 years, and I didn't have that feeling before because I didn't know what it would be like. But then the summer school
Yeah.
completely changed that. So out of curiosity, was there any reason why you didn't apply to Sydney Sussex?
I don't think so. I really liked it there. Um, there's not really any particular reason I didn't apply there. I don't
Mm,
think. I think it's just like I'd already been and it was really nice, and I'd like to
yeah,
like go back and visit it. But
yeah.
it's just Trinity Hall. Just
Mm.
um,
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's just got everything.
yeah.
Um,
Because you saw it on the open day, right?
no, I didn't
No.
come to any open days
Oh,
at all. I
okay.
just turned up one day after I'd finished tutoring.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I just came on a random Saturday and the porters let me in, but
Oh,
not
nice.
all colleges let me
Oh,
in.
okay.
So that was part of what narrowed it down.
Yeah, that's a good thing to report back to the colleges. Letting visitors in can.
Yeah, no,
Um,
the porters here, like
yeah,
you,
they're
because
lovely.
you see them so much, you get to know them really well.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah,
you're picking up a parcel or just walking in and out. They're
yeah,
really brilliant.
yeah. Nice. No, yeah, I didn't. I also just didn't apply to the colleges I went to summer schools in. No particular reason against the college. I think it was just partly I felt like I'd already stayed there and I wanted to try something new, I guess. I guess it shows how random it can be which college students apply to.
Yeah.
Um, so what kind of things have you been doing like over the term? Like any societies or events?
Um, there's always something going on. I think
Okay.
the thing with Cambridge is that you know it's going to be fast paced, but you aren't prepared for just how fast paced and dynamic it is.
Mm,
So there'll be something every day that you can go to. I think part of it is you have to learn how to prioritize and think like what actually is important to me here, because you might have like two or three conflicting things happening at the same time. So something I've been able to start doing is like go climbing a bit this term.
nice.
So we have a few climbing centres in Cambridge, so that's been fun, and I'd like to do that a lot more next term.
Mm,
Um, but we also have like lots of other things that are kind of like one-off events.
mm.
So for example, I went to a speech about education policy, and it was really good because it was in a lecture theatre, and there were only a few of us in the room, so it was like a
Oh,
nice kind of
nice.
engaging
Do you remember
workshop
what it was
almost.
about? Just out of
Yeah, so
curiosity.
it was called I think Send My Friend to School. So it was about like partnering up with schools and with the government to make sure that more education funding was allocated to countries where the government might not be able to do that themselves. About advocating for that when over the last few years, government funding for education abroad has gone down. So
Mm,
that was really interesting,
that
and
is
that's
interesting.
something I might like to go into in the future. So all these events that you go to completely out of interest, but also
Mm,
like start making you think about things and like what I might like to do. Really helpful. Yeah.
nice. And like so with HSPS, like what was it that brought you that made you want to apply for HSPS? Like did you always know or
I was trying to figure out when I worked out that I wanted to apply to HSPS. I think maybe we had one of those like lessons, year 10 or 11, where we had
mm,
to like start researching degrees. And I knew I was quite interested in politics, so it was kind of like politics and geography and history and that kind of thing with what I was researching. And I knew like HSPS was like the pinnacle of politics degrees, but I didn't know whether that would actually be achievable. So it was kind of like this distant dream for a while. And then I got into year 12 and thought maybe I might try it.
mm.
And there were lots of times I tried to convince myself that I shouldn't.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, eventually I did apply, and I'm
nice.
really glad I did.
But yeah, because it worked out.
It worked out, yeah.
So so what can you expand a bit more about like how come you were like concerned about like maybe like telling yourself that you shouldn't apply?
I think it, the application statistics are quite scary,
Yeah.
but they don't have to be, and they shouldn't put you off because you have to be in it to win it, right? You
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah.
you can't not apply
Mm,
because you're a little bit scared by it. You're definitely not going to get in then, so it's worth a try. Um, I think
mm,
maybe there is always that element of you think people here are not going to be like you.
yeah.
So I think it's going to be like really posh and everyone's going to be. It
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't necessarily people being like like ridiculously like posh and like not from similar backgrounds to my own. It was more so that I thought everyone was just going to be like insanely intelligent and that I wouldn't be able to like cope with that and compete with them. But it, like, we are all in it together, and it's not like a crazy competitive hostile environment. And it's really good to have friends from different subjects as well, if you ever feel like, but I never have felt like that.
Nice. Yeah, there are a few like either myths or like justified fears in, on the one hand, everyone might be really posh, but then, and then you kind of get over that and think, oh no, it'd be fine. But then on the other hand, what if, even if they're not posh, they might be really clever?
Yeah, there's always something. I think I always found a way to like doubt myself somehow. Think I'm not going to fit in. Something's going to go wrong, but yeah, it actually hasn't. I'm really surprised by that. But yeah, everyone is just normal. I'm not sure. In one sense of the word, we're just people. We just like our subjects and get to talk about them at meal times. And it's been, I think, the first place I felt like I fit in and can talk about these things outside of my degree, which is really nerdy, but
nice. Yeah.
a lot of fun.
So what have the people? So have the people lived up to the ideas of like being really posh or competitive or like really clever? Like,
well, in the first week, I was convinced that everyone was, and I found that quite difficult. But then I actually started meeting people, and I realised I had a very small sample size. And actually, I'd say like, I don't have the statistics obviously, but I think most people here are like state educated, and there are a lot of international students as well. So you've got this like real mix of backgrounds, and it's so fun to learn about like what everyone's doing and like their stories.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not it doesn't have to be some kind of like private state school divide. It's not like that at all. In fact, you probably can't really tell unless you are someone. So yeah, it's not that divisive.
And I think something you were saying before we started that, you were saying something about how it was quite relieving to find out that everyone was like in the same boat in terms of like being stressed like towards their studies. Could you expand a bit more about that?
So we had this induction week and then freshers week. So we had all this time to explore Cambridge and get to know each other.
Nice.
And that was so valuable, because I think some colleges, they started a little bit later, and then they were like 3 days in and they got set essays or
but Trinity Hall have the induction week.
But Trinity Hall had this induction week, which was really good. And then the academic term started, and that obviously was quite stressful, because we got set quite a few essays within about 24 hours, and we had a few weeks, and then all the deadlines were quite close together. So we had to learn how to navigate that, and time management is a huge thing, obviously. But we were all in it together, and we can all talk to each other about that. I think if we have a problem with something, then we can support each other in like solving that, and help each other through it emotionally as well.
Nice.
And that goes back to the thing about having friends from different subjects. It's really nice to talk to them about what they're doing. And sometimes it is difficult when you've got different deadlines at different times, like with your friends, because you might be like, let's go to this social or something, and then they're like, no, I've got a deadline tonight. So you just kind of have to work around that. And
nice. Because I guess sometimes you want to talk to people who are like in the same course, and so they understand like the pressures, but then equally, I guess sometimes you just need to talk to a non-HSPS person and just take a break from.
Because there are 4 of us doing HSPS at Trinity Hall, and we've become really close.
Nice.
But obviously, like, your friendship group's going to be much wider than that, and you get to have lots of friends in different places as well. It's not necessarily just one like concrete group of people. We've got this like massive network, and everyone knows everyone somehow. So
nice.
Like, you'll know someone through someone else, and get to know them as well. So I'd say I know most people in my year now.
Nice. Yeah.
Um,
It's only been one term. That's really cool.
yeah, I think there's just over 100 of us, so
Okay.
it's like a lot smaller than a year group at school.
Yeah.
And that will vary massively by college.
Yeah.
But I really like the fact that it's like, I think, a little bit smaller than average.
Yeah.
It's also not the smallest college, so you've got that new people to meet, but also lots of people that you've already got to know.
Yeah. It's interesting how in Cambridge, like 100 people is like slightly below average. It's a smaller size, but in an Oxford undergraduate group, 100 would be actually quite big. They're not huge, but above average. Yeah. Right. So the next question I've got here is because like students always want to know what like a typical day looks like for like a Cambridge student, and like I guess this would be like what a typical day for a first year HSPS student would look like.
I think every day is different for me. Obviously, that will vary by subject, and but it also varies for me day by day quite a lot. So,
Yeah.
like, my weekends look quite different to my weekdays. For example, although the library is a common denominator. So on a weekday, I'd say I usually wake up. I have about 8 hours of lectures a week. So I have one sometimes, but sometimes I have on a Thursday I have 3 hours of lectures, for example. So that changes a little bit depending on which day of the week it is. But I usually go to my lecture at Sidgwick site, which is the arts and humanities and social science faculties are based there. So I'll go there. I always have my lectures in the same place, but I know a lot of people move around quite a lot. So this is very subject dependent. So quite convenient for me. But yeah, I'll come back from there and cross the bridge, and it's a really lovely view. Every day I take a picture of exactly the same view.
Nice.
Because
That's really cool.
Trying not to take it for granted and
granted,
actually notice my surroundings still, because it is really easy to just just go, this is my world now, this is what it is. But you have to be really grateful for what you've got. But yeah, I come back and usually do some admin or like just run errands or something like that, and then I'll come back and have lunch, which is a really important part of my day.
And you always come back to Trinity Hall?
Yes, I always come back to Trinity Hall, so we can have our like lunch and dinner catered. If we want to. You don't have to go into the hall. There's no like minimum requirement. But because I live right next to it this year, so this year I live on central site, and then in second and third year people tend to move out to the like off-site accommodation, but a lot of people come back for lunch and dinner still because it's that good.
Nice.
Yes, I absolutely love it. And then that's a really good social time as well, because you and your friends are probably doing different things, and they might be at lectures at different times. You just kind of miss them, but lunch and dinner, everyone's together. So that's a really nice time to just catch up and see what everyone's getting on with that day, and if they need, any emotional support, or do you want me to go to the shop and get you some biscuits or something, if it's a particularly rough deadline. But yeah, that's really nice sort of like camaraderie. Like even at lunch and dinner. And then after lunch I usually do go to the library, and I'll probably study there until dinner. And then usually we just have a normal dinner.
Back at hall?
Back at the hall,
Hall,
on occasion people do go out, and that's nice as well. But yeah, there's no reason to go out because the food is actually that nice.
I mean, it would be harder to find a nicer meal in town than the ones you get in Trinity Hall. Like as in, or like most college food is really like, because you get like good. A high quality main. Yeah,
it's just there's a lot. It's lovely. There's a lot of food you can get. Like some people get two mains. Like they'll just be like, "Can you please double up my portion?"
Yeah, who would
you can
do that?
You get two. You get a side. You get two sides. You get dessert.
Nice.
You get a drink. You can kind of like customize it a lot more than I could at school.
And it's really cheap.
Like I don't know. I don't think they're breaking even on that.
I should know this. It is entirely geared towards the student needs rather than like a financial thing for the college. So that's brilliant. And then after dinner, I might go back to the library. It's starting to sound very library heavy, or no, I mean
a lot of social events happen after dinner as well. So like societies might host something, or there might be a talk or something like that about that time. Yeah, and then I'll just sort of work for as long as possible, but try and get to bed at a reasonable time. And often, like, before bed's the kind of time you want to do like the things that don't require a lot of thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
So might do some more like admin, or just the thing is, like, it's a very intense academic workload, but alongside that you've got things constantly happening. Like, I've always got more emails to answer.
Yeah,
You have to make quite quick decisions sometimes. It might be like,
yeah,
I've got an event tonight. Do I go? Do I have time for this? So yeah, there's a lot of adulting that has to be done
nice.
alongside the degree. But yeah, and then I say I spend a lot of the weekend working as well. I think that's a really good time to catch up on things.
Yeah.
But obviously you have to strike that right balance. And work-life balance is something that we're all trying to navigate at the moment.
Nice. That sounds really cool. So, yeah, am I right in thinking that it's normally like work during the day with like your breaks of lunch and dinner,
Yeah.
and then like the evening is like left for like socializing?
It really depends on the day
Yeah.
and the deadline.
Yeah, of course.
So I've had 12 essays this term.
Mm.
So we're on week 8 at the moment, and I just had my last deadline. So that equates to like roughly 1.5 a week. But sometimes the deadlines are bunched together a little bit, or like they're just not very convenient. So there's a lot of pastoral support. So if you do need to get, if things are impossible or you're just finding them really difficult, you can sort of try and compromise on that and ask them, like, like, what can we do here?
Is there a lot of reading for each of those essays?
This is one of the things that did surprise me the most.
Yeah.
I should have known this, but there is so much reading. There's going to be a lot more reading for HSPS than there is for like maths. So,
True,
the nature of each subject is completely different.
Yeah.
So you have to take that into account. But I'm not sure what the ratio is, but I spend a significant like amount of time reading compared to how much I actually spend writing.
Yeah.
Because the reading lists can be quite long. And another thing you have to do is prioritize. So like, you have to prioritize your time. You have to prioritize like what you're going to read, and how you approach that. So last week I had an essay, and the main book, this was just the primary reading, was 1,000 pages long, and I had a day to get through it and make notes on it.
How does that day go?
And because I guess I've sort of like developed those skills over the term.
Nice.
I was able to
Yeah.
just like try and prioritize the most important bits, and I got through it.
Because I guess you have to become quite discerning with what you
Yes,
dedicate your time to.
definitely. You can't read everything. I think something I'd like to do over holidays a bit is actually like enjoy what I'm reading for what it is, rather than just trying to like frantically pick out the most relevant bits for the essay. Because I sometimes I sit there and it's like, I wish I had more time to actually read this properly. But the reading comes in all different forms. So you might have like like, mine are usually journals and like full-on books. So you can take them out online. You can like borrow them from the library. It took me until about last week to take a book out of the library. So people work in different ways, but I usually read mine like side by side. I have like a split screen for my laptop.
Nice, yeah.
So yeah, people work in massively different ways, and I've learned, like, even the girls I do HSPS with, we all plan in different ways. Our essays are all completely different, and it just works the way. I think it's nice to have that like creative freedom, just to be able to write what we want, and they'll just they just accept that. They don't tell you to do things a certain way. So you've got a lot of autonomy over what you write and sort of how you do it. And then I guess you can sometimes go into the parts of that topic that you find more interesting in an essay, and then you get to talk about them in the supervisions afterwards. So
what are they like? Does you have the supervision team?
The supervision system is basically a system that's unique to Oxbridge. I think they call them tutorials at Oxford.
Yeah, I think everything else is the same, just that the name's different.
Yeah. And you have this opportunity to be in a room with like a brilliant academic, and usually like maybe one or two other students. Sometimes it's I think even one-on-one. So you'll be in very, very small groups. So
Yeah.
it's quite intense. Supervisions usually last about an hour and a half. And
Okay.
in that, I would usually get essay feedback and like just talk around the topic and like, the problems I had when writing that essay, and what maybe sometimes you might even miss the point of the essay. Like you might have completely misinterpreted it, or people might have interpreted it in different ways, and that's fine. And you get to bounce ideas off the other students who are in there as well, if there are any. And like it's just really nice to have that academic discussion, and a lot more casual than I thought it would be. Like they're usually just in rooms with sofas and like armchairs and cushions and that kind of thing.
Nice.
So you just sit there and talk for an hour, and it's a lot more relaxed, even I'd say, than like a classroom environment. I think that's something that the interviews are a lot more intense than the actual supervisions. I know people say like what they're trying to test is how you do in a supervision setting when you have your interviews, but they're nothing like it's nothing to be scared of.
The supervision,
the supervision or the interview. But I think at the start of the term I was quite quiet in supervisions because it is scary. You're put in this new environment, you've got this world leading academic and they've read your essay, and you have to kind of defend yourself in a way and talk about these things. But I think over time I've got a lot more confident and able to like voice my opinion, so I'm getting a lot more out of supervisions now, and I guess that's probably quite a normal standard experience for Cambridge students. We get sort of more confident with these things over time.
I guess they're quite handy. Like, so if because as you said, it's like if you're this is like a long reading list and you all choose different parts to read, or you read them in different ways, and then if you all come together, that sense of collaboration, you can like hear points of views and like stuff that other people have read because they have like you've gone over different stuff. Like, imagine that's that collaboration helps a lot.
We have that quite a lot, and it's really nice to be able to talk about that, because then if someone's found something interesting and you didn't have time to read it, then you can go back and look at that. And basically it's just a learning process really, so there's no pressure to do like a perfect essay, and you don't have time for that. You just have to do it, make sure it's as good as it can be in the time that you have, and move on. And that's, I think a lot of people here are perfectionists, and it's quite a difficult skill to just let it go. Like it's not going to be perfect, there's always going to be something you can improve on, and that's the whole point, that you can like be told like where can you go with that essay, and what could you do with that in an exam, and then you just take that on board.
Nice. I mean, we were doing a podcast with Neil, Director of Studies for Philosophy, and he said the exact same thing with regards to research, that there's always more to read. Your paper can never be perfect, but at some point you've got to publish it. And it shows how that narrative, that feeling is as true for a first year student as it is to a world leading academic, both saying the same thing and both saying, it will never be perfect. At some point you just have to go for it, even if at a later date you look back and think,
what was this? And I'm sure I will when I go and review my essays over the holidays. It's gonna be like, what was this? But that's fine. That's kind of how it's meant to be. You're not meant to get it right, because if you get it right the first time, it's like, what was the point in continuing to learn and like striving to improve? So I know it's a bit cliche, but that's exactly how it is. And I think I had this idea that everyone was going to like just write absolutely groundbreaking essays and be so articulate in supervisions, and I wouldn't be able to match them, and I'd feel like just completely inferior. But I don't think anyone really like feels like that all the time. I think maybe they do, like everyone does now and again. They feel like, oh my goodness, like what am I up against here? But I think that relates back to the idea that it's not meant to be like super competitive with each other. You're just trying to work on your own like writing or whatever you're doing and improve at that.
It's not just a Cambridge thing, it's a common thing, I think, in all unis, maybe more so in the you can't really do this, at least in chemistry you couldn't do this because there was just a right answer. but you do have some people who like have like really good rhetoric, really good speaking skills, and then after like a while you realize that they haven't actually done any of the reading, and I and that be that skill can be quite daunting, especially like as a when you're just starting uni trying to navigate like seminars or the student life, and you have people being able to talk so well but not actually do a lot.
I think that was one of the functions of induction week as well,
Yeah.
was that you might have imposter syndrome. That's quite common.
Yeah.
Um, to not think that you deserve to be here,
Mm,
but the whole like mantra that kept getting repeated was you do deserve to be here. We've chosen you for a reason. It's quite a competitive application process, and you have to put your all into that. So if you are here, like you're passionate about it and you want to do it, and you are capable of doing that, that's what they try to drum into us right at the beginning. And sometimes you will have lapses in confidence,
yeah.
and that's just normal. But yeah, you're not.
And I
Like,
think
no one's out of place.
yeah, and I think almost everyone has experiences imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
regardless whether you're a good talker or you're quite openly shy. Deep down, most people are like struggling with imposter syndrome, and I think we've talked about it in multiple podcasts that like there are no imposters. Like if you've been given an offer, then that's because there's been faith put on you, and then therefore, by definition, you're not an imposter. But the feeling will always creep up on people, which is
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. It doesn't go away, but that's okay. And you've got other people around you who've gone through exactly the same
Yeah.
thing. And that applies to like just life in general. Everyone's going through it for the first time here, and we're all trying to navigate it in our own ways. And we've got this brilliant support system, not just like the pastoral system, which
Yeah.
is amazing, but also like just having friends to talk to, and
Yeah.
like, you live next door to them, and you just like knock on their door and be like, I'm not
Mm,
feeling it today, or
yeah.
like I just like just don't feel like I can do it.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant to have that, and
Yeah.
just to like live in such close proximity, and yeah, have everyone be so friendly. I'm really,
Mm,
really lucky.
nice. Yeah. So, I want to know more about with regards to HSPS. So, what kind of topics have you been learning about for your first term?
The thing about HSPS is that it's a very broad, multidisciplinary,
Mm,
interdisciplinary degree,
yeah.
even. So you learn about like such a wide range of things, but then they all start linking together in a way. So HSPS is politics, international relations, sociology, and anthropology.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd say for the first term or so, we've mainly been doing foundations of theory, which
Mm,
makes sense because then you apply that theory later on to what you're looking at.
okay. Yeah.
So, for example, in politics, we've been doing key political thinkers like Hobbes and Weber, and in international relations, we've been looking at like key theories in international relations, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like the foundational things. So it's not like you have to have prior knowledge of anything before you get here. Obviously, you're quite likely to have something in particular that you might be quite fascinated by, that you might have like written about in your application, but you don't have to have studied anything like in particular. They do start from the ground up. So for example, I did geography, politics, and English literature at A level. So I'd never done sociology before, and I'd never done anthropology before, and I didn't apply for them at my other universities in general.
Mm,
So that was something completely new. So you just have to kind of get stuck into it.
yeah.
And I don't I don't really get the impression that anyone's at a distinct advantage because of what they studied in the past.
Okay.
It's not necessarily like that. Like they do like start everything new, and you're probably learning in a very different way and very different things to what you've learned before. So yeah, I think one of the things I love the most about HSPS is the fact that like you have the things that link together really well, and then you just sometimes end up reading the most random pieces of information ever.
Yeah.
So one of my anthropology essays was like primarily based on a book about prawn fishing.
Okay.
in the Mediterranean.
Right.
So I've learned about relationships between like fishermen in Sicily and Tunisia.
Wow. Okay.
Like you
Yeah.
would never, unless you scrutinize the paper guide in detail, which I think is freely available online. So I would probably recommend doing that. You don't know what you're in for. And because the reading lists are often so long, you have to choose what to read.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you can have fun with it and just choose the most fun topic. And that's part of the degree. Like you're not digressing from the degree and doing that. So yeah, I could come up with a long list of things that have come up in my degree so far, and it's only been 8 weeks that I just would never have imagined. But that might be quite a HSPS specific thing as well.
Because
but yeah,
before you said that you described HSPS as like the pinnacle of like politics degrees. I was wondering, could you expand a bit more about that?
Obviously,
what do you mean by that?
Politics is a lot. HSPS is a lot more than just politics. But because I applied for politics and international relations at 3 of my other universities, that was kind of like the basis I was working on. That was what I based my application around. And I just knew that I just really liked the fact that everything linked together so well. And I think I did have an awareness that it was like the scope for HSPS is so broad. And like I really wanted to be involved with that because I wasn't quite sure like exactly what I wanted to do. So it's not like you have to narrow it down to one degree. That's the beauty of it. And I actually think I will struggle when I have to specialize in either one or two of those subjects. So politics and international relations go together. So you kind of have to study them together. And then I could do like those two in sociology or those two in anthropology, or I could just do sociology on its own or anthropology on its own, or that kind of combination. And I've got absolutely no idea what I want to do next year. I've spoken about this with the other girls doing HSPS, and they're starting to come up with an idea of what they might like to continue with and what they might want to drop, and I just don't know. I love it all, so that's going to be quite a difficult decision, but I think as the year goes on it might become clear.
You've got a lot of time.
Got a lot of time. But I was trying to think about like, what my favourite discipline actually was. I think I've come to the conclusion that I really quite like the sociology lectures, but then I like the anthropology essays the most. And then I've had some brilliant politics supervisions. But I think it just turns out I'm really indecisive. But I think that's why HSPS was right for me as a degree. I could just like try all these different things, and hopefully one of them sticks.
Nice. So with regards to HSPS, like did you? I'm not sure this is right that its counterpart seems to be always seen as PP at Oxford, because I'm not sure actually how similar they are. But did you ever think about applying to Oxford or applying for PPE?
No. I know a lot of people have trouble picking the university if they do discover they want to apply to Oxbridge.
Because you can only apply for one of them.
You can only apply for Cambridge or Oxford.
In one given year.
Yes, at the same time. So people might try both at different years.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew that PPE is philosophy, politics, and economics. So it's actually quite different to HSPS. I think a little bit more maths-based and
PPE.
Than PPE. And
as in PPE is more maths-based.
Yeah. I think I would have been most interested in the politics part of that. And you have to kind of have some interest in the whole thing, and HSPS for me was just a much better fit because I love all 3 of the parts of HSPS come together. And I feel like maybe, especially in such an intense environment, you might find it quite difficult to study a subject where you only like parts of it.
Of course,
no, Oxford wasn't really something I considered. The decision was a bit easier for me.
Nice.
Especially because I think this is raised quite a lot. You can't do politics on its own at either of them.
Yeah, it's true. You can't.
So politics is always part of an interdisciplinary degree at Oxford or Cambridge. So you kind of have to make that decision. about whether that's right for you as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to consider there. But yeah, they are obviously on par, and they're both politics, I think. That there's always going to be crossover in some way, but I'm not quite sure what the course entails with PPE because I never really looked at it in detail.
Yeah,
I think I saw HSPS and it was
I think
over for everything else.
nice. That's really cool. And I think you're right that choosing the right course and choosing a course where you like all of it is like obviously much better than a course where you only like 1/3 of the degree.
Yeah, you've got to make sure the degree is the right fit for you, and not also not apply to Oxbridge because it's Oxbridge.
Yeah,
that's really important. Like, you've got to go for the degree which is right for you. And unfortunately for me, this is the only place they offered HSPS.
nice.
So I'm quite fortunate, really. But yeah, you've got to do it. You've got to be in it for the degree, and they'll be able to see through that as well, I think, at interview. Like, if you just apply for the brand name, really. So yeah, make sure you're actually passionate about that subject or that set of subjects. That's really important.
So, well, what kind of pitfalls do you think can happen if you're applying for Cambridge, like for the brand or like the prestige? Like, or why would you discourage someone to do that? I'm not disagreeing.
There'll be people who do it and get in, obviously.
Yeah.
It's obviously going to be like a part of everyone's decision to apply, is because it is Oxford or Cambridge. You know, that is, it's not like people are going to be completely desensitized to that. They apply for the degree in part because of the university's name and its reputation, and like the career prospects that come with that. That is an important thing to consider. But I think like when selecting candidates, that's emphasized quite a lot, is like, you have to be like extremely passionate about that subject. And that's easier to do on paper than it is in an interview. So when you get into an interview and they might ask you about something that broadly relates to your subject that you've never actually like come across specifically before, you have to be able to display that passion and that willingness to talk about that subject. So if you can't just apply because you think you might have a chance at getting into Oxbridge.
So I imagine like 3 years would be quite a long time as well to like spend on something that you don't really want to do.
I think if you're doing that, like, obviously it depends on the day, but if you're doing that quite a few hours a day, that's quite miserable. I think people even struggled with that at A-level, taking subjects that they were told they had to do. Or they had to do to get into a certain degree course, when actually they weren't interested in that. I think the interviewers would like to think, and probably do, see through that.
I mean, I don't. It's hard to know what to say with regards to is it worth choosing a course for the prestige of the university, even if you don't like the course? I think I definitely saw people who did that, and it was really tough to kind of witness how much they struggled with the experience of university. It's very rare where like I've seen it and it's like worth it. I guess if the course is like manageable, then it's it could be seen as fine. But you're right to say that you're better off just taking the time to find the right course for you. I think I've also seen people the course that they want to do, the perfect one is elsewhere in a different, like, a university outside of Oxbridge, but then and they've done really well because they've chosen the right course, and then it happens that the master's course they want to apply for happens to be in Oxbridge, and then because they've done really well, they've like applied and they get in, and like that kind of narrative works when you're kind of following what you like, what's right for you, what you really want to do, rather than trying to follow down a path that someone else has told you that is like important or prestigious.
Because like, as much as I absolutely love it here, like, I'm not gonna hide that you have to be in it for the degree, and then you're not going to be happy with anything else, like about your life and about your time here, if you don't want to do the degree. Because I mean, it might be a little bit different at some universities, but here you're doing that degree so many hours a day. You can't be miserable about it. I think there are opportunities to like change tripos, so like change your degree course like after a year or so. I'm not quite sure like the specifics of that. People do sometimes get here and find that it isn't right for them, and that's fine. Like there are ways of accommodating that, but yeah, like don't apply to Oxbridge because it's Oxbridge.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. No, for sure. And lastly, like, how have you found Cambridge as a city? Like, is it an easy city to settle in? Yeah, like, and yeah, what's life been like moving and settling into the city?
I think everyone's experiences like differ quite a lot on this. I imagine it took some people a lot longer sort of settle in, but I think I got here and I just felt like it was home straight away, because I'd been here a couple of times before, like on offer holder day and on my summer school, and I'd been here for like an essay program as well. It felt a lot more familiar to me than it might have done for someone who was just arriving for the first time. But even people who've never been here before did settle in really quickly, I think, in general, because Cambridge is a student city, right? So everything is centered around the students, which is brilliant for us. It's a very, very small city, so everything's incredibly walkable. It's very. I have had to take a bus a few times on some random adventures, but like if you wanted to go to like a big supermarket, depending on what college you go to as well, you might have to branch out a little bit. But in general, like my lectures are less than 15 minutes away, like walking. I can get to Sainsbury's in 5 minutes. I can get to the GP in 5 minutes. Like I think that's something that attracted me to Trinity Hall as well. The location is just like brilliant. So when I came and visited, it was like down this passage, Senate House passage, and it's tucked away. So it's not like one of the like bigger, more grandiose colleges that's right in the middle of town. But the location is still so central. You just walk up the road, and suddenly you're out, and that's where all the tourists are. So you kind of a little bit protected from like all the hustle and bustle of everything, but at the same time, like literally right in the middle of everything. And if you wanted to like go out and get pizza or something, or pick something up from Boots, or like literally anything you need to do, it's probably less than 10 minutes away by foot.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. And it is really good just financially that you never have to spend any money like commuting.
Yes. I think even if we do have to get the bus, like they'll have student rates, so that's very accessible. But that's so rare anyway. There's no transport costs. I know a lot of my friends at home commuting to London every day, and that's a huge like chunk of their spending. So yeah, we're really lucky to have everything right here. It's gonna be weird to go home and not have everything you need literally within 5 minutes of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real privilege that the university is right at the city centre, because it's very rare that you would live in a room that's like right in the middle of the city. I guess that's just one of the privileges that you get from being able to study at Cambridge. Nice, amazing. Well, was there anything else you wanted to say?
I don't think so. I think if I had one takeaway message, it would be like it's not. It might be quite difficult to settle in at first. It's not. Going to university in general is just a huge life decision, and it's a big change. To your life. It's nothing like school. You're completely independent. You have to look after yourself, and like do that alongside your degree, which is quite a big thing. You can't just sideline that. So it is a lot, but it's also not impossible. It's not unmanageable in any way, and you can have I've had so much fun. I've done so many random things here. Like I've tried, like, for example, I've tried rowing.
Nice.
It didn't last long, but it's just a lot of fun. Like,
Yeah.
you can just to have these opportunities for free as well. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So I went out and I did some rowing sessions at the beginning of term. I've adopted a plant.
Nice.
He's called Sebastian. I'm very proud of him. I did drop him on his head.
Oh no!
But he's survived it, so he's a very resilient child.
There you are.
I think one of my favourite things that has happened is the other day my year group hosted their own nativity play. In it was just full of jokes about things that have happened in the last term.
Nice.
So it was completely a completely relatable nativity, and yeah, that was brilliant fun.
Yeah, because you mentioned there's a guy who was like 6'7" who was baby Jesus.
Yeah,
sounds like a fun...
It's just anything goes. Like, I think people are. I think
whoever thought of the idea is going
brilliant.
Places.
Yes, I think when you put a lot of, obviously everyone here is very intelligent. I think they've got brilliant sense of humour.
Yeah, exactly.
As well, that goes alongside that.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's not all about the work. There are a lot of like brilliant, crazy situations we end up in every now and then.
Upcoming screenplay writers.
Yes. Watch out for that, because I think Tom's going somewhere.
Nice
with that, but yeah.
That's really,
we have brilliant fun, and there are so many social events going on at the same time, but it's just absolutely packed. I think that's why the terms are so short, is you have to go home and recuperate, because there's not a lot of time during term to do that. Because you're literally just doing something all day every day, and you can find so much like value in the mundane things at all as well. Like if you're just in the library like with a friend, as long as you get some work done, that can be a lot of fun. So you just get on with it and just see what the next day brings. I've loved every minute of it so far, and I can't wait to come back for Lent in January.
Nice, amazing. Well, thanks, Neve. It's such a really interesting conversation to hear how your first term's gone. Good luck for your next term, and I mean, it's amazing how much has happened in just one term.
I think a Cambridge day feels like about a week long.
But does it go by quickly?
No, it's like it does. It goes by really quickly. Like, I've suddenly found myself here at the end of term, like a few minutes ago I was just walking in for the first time. But at the same time, like, so much can happen in a day. Like, time goes by more slowly in a way, because it's just like,
because there's so much happening.
There's so much happening. Like, usually there wouldn't be that many things happening in a day. And it can be quite overwhelming, but it's so much fun.
Nice, brilliant, amazing. I think, and it's great that you shared that with us, and like the viewers get to have an insight of what Cambridge is like. And I hope it helps them make informed decisions of whether they want to apply or not. Amazing. Well, and thanks for the viewers for watching, whether it's on YouTube or your podcasting platform. We're wanting to get more students involved, interviewing them to hear more about their lives at Cambridge. At the moment, as you've seen, we've done a lot of admissions content because it's coming towards the end of the admissions rounds this year. But in the next term, we're going to get a lot more student voices on the podcast to hear a lot of stories about what life is like in Cambridge. So we'll see you guys next time. Nice. Oh, you got the plant in.
Got the plant in.
Nice.
He had to be, because I kind of neglected him for a bit, and I literally just saw the other day that he'd sprouted like a whole flower